The Cavs have a massive decision to make. This is a decision that will have implications on the roster and the franchise for years to come. The good news is it's not that hard of a decision, but it's a decision that'll have massive implications. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cavs Digest. I'm your host, Darayus Sethna. Thanks so much for joining me today. Before we get into today's video, just want to remind you to like this video and subscribe to the Cavs Digest YouTube channel. We love hearing your thoughts. Like I said, over the last couple weeks or so, I've gotten to read some of your guys' comments. Really intrigued by what some of you have to say. So make sure you leave your voice heard, like this video, and subscribe to the channel. Would be much appreciated. We love the fact that you're taking the time to view our videos. Let's get into it right away, because this is a topic today that is a little personal for me. As a lot of you may know, I live around the Cleveland area. Just grew up right in the middle of Cleveland and Akron. Know a lot of people who are Cleveland fans. I'm actually right now working with the Cleveland Guardians, the MLB team here, and working with their security team. So I'm working with a lot of people who are from Cleveland, love the sports scene here, and so I've had the chance to talk with a lot of them about the Cavs. And we talk a lot about this guy, Darius Garland, and Jarrett Allen. These are two guys who have been impeccable and have been the two of the core pieces to this Cavaliers rebirth, if you will. And we've been hearing them in trade talks ever since the Cavs lost to Indiana in the second round last year. And I've got to tell you, I am not a fan of it at all. I do not like the fact that we are seeing Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen in these trade talks. To me, this has me raising my eyebrows and shaking my head a little bit here. These are two guys, like I said, Darius Garland drafted number 5 overall in 2019. In my opinion, has only gotten better. And then Jarrett Allen, you could argue the Cavs won that big 2021 blockbuster trade with Brooklyn and Houston. Remember the James Harden going to Brooklyn saga? Well, as part of that package, Jarrett Allen went from Brooklyn to Cleveland. And you could argue because of that singular move, Jarrett Allen going from Brooklyn to the Cavaliers, that is why the Cavs won that 4-team James Harden deal. So to me, this has been nothing but a success story for Jarrett Allen in Cleveland. And, going back to it too, I think these two guys have already showed that they can flourish under new head coach Kenny Atkinson's system. I've mentioned this before too, and this is what I explain to a lot of people who are kind of Garland, not haters if you will, but who are opposed to Garland staying with the team long term. This is the year I saw true growth from Garland, and more specifically, his ability to know when to pass and when to score. And I think this led to him being a fantastic player when it came to clutch moments, when games were tight down the stretch. The Cavs would put the ball in Darius Garland's hands, and a lot of the times he capitalized, whether that was finding the right pass or making the shot and even getting to the free throw line. Same with Jarrett Allen too. In this system, he is just a big man that runs the floor, blocks shots, and gets dunks. And he was probably one of his more efficient seasons to me under Kenny Atkinson. Certainly one of his more impactful seasons, with you will. And this Darius Garland to Jarrett pick and roll combo is one of the deadliest in the league. So to me, there's no reason to break this up whatsoever. Let's get some numbers for you, and I think these numbers certainly will do justice to make my case here. Right, Darius Garland, you look at it, all-star, 31 points per game. 21 points per game. And so those are two numbers, to me that you'd say, hey, Darayus, I've seen these numbers before. Darius Garland is usually a 20-point per game scorer. But again, to me, it's the decision-making that I explained earlier. But also look at those last two numbers. It's the efficiency in which he's doing it with, right? This is a guy who has the ball in his hands a lot. And the fact that he's making shots, 47% from the field this year, and then 40% from three-point range on a team with a plethora of three-point shooters. So I think Darius Garland showed me, the growth that I wanted to see as a Cavs fan. Was the end result what we wanted to see? Absolutely not. The toe injury compromised him. we can have a discussion of whether he should have played through the torn injury more. That, to me, that's a discussion for another day. But when I look at the actual growth of what Darius Garland was able to do this year, there is no reason for anyone whatsoever to consider him in trade talks. Now we go over to Jarrett Allen too. Kind of similar story, right? 28 minutes a game, averaging 13, 14 points per game, and that's for today's big man, especially for a big man who doesn't shoot threes, which honestly on the Cavs he doesn't need to do that. Those are serviceable numbers, right? You look at that field goal percentage. Jarrett Allen is always one of the top, field goal percentage leaders in the entire National Basketball Association. Then you look at rebounds per game. He's going to give you those 10 boards. Again, blocking the shots that it's always interesting with Jarrett Allen. He always blocks shots to me at the most critical moments in crunch time. Now, I think the biggest knock with Jarrett is that he's not a playoff big man. We even saw, actually our channel posted a couple months ago, I think it was Billy Beebe describing why, or it was a Channing Frye, he was on a podcast and he was explaining why Jarrett Allen, was not a good big man in the playoffs. And that's, again, whole other story for a whole nother day. But again, I think that's the biggest knock on him. But at the same time, he's not the number one option on offense. You can't knock Jarrett Allen for this. Does he have to improve? Absolutely. And I think he knows that. He's been in the league for a few years now. I think that he knows what he needs to do. So now we go to, I want to talk about general manager Koby Altman for a second here, because he had the chance to go on one of ESPN's broadcasts during the Summer League. Cavs were playing the Bucks, if I'm not mistaken, earlier in the week, last week, and Koby Altman discussed why last year was a failure, and he talked about the space that the Cavaliers as a franchise are in. Remember, Koby Altman's first year was that 2018 season where it was LeBron's last year, and LeBron had one of the best seasons of his career in Cleveland, and this is what Koby had to say, kind of more about the team moving forward. So the hard part when Koby started in Cleveland was just bringing that talent here, right? LeBron had left. In Cleveland, obviously we know, is a smaller market that does not attract those free agents. So it really, this year, however, moving forward for 2025, 26, and beyond, Koby was talking about, this year, it's about internal growth. We're still young, but now we have to live in a space of, let's try to get to the NBA Finals and see what we can do. And this is really the key thing for me going forward. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That, to me, is why the Cavaliers need to stay put, especially with this core four. Let me give you some numbers here. If you're into betting, Vegas odds. This is on ESPN. ESPN odds for next year. Who will come out of the Eastern Conference? And who do you know? Look who's at the top there. To me, this is a this is an accurate standing. Cleveland Cavs should be the favorites to come out of the East. So here's the thing. If you're already favorites to come out of the East, why would you want to make a massive shakeup to trade by trading Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen? To me, it just doesn't make sense. Why would you make those changes? And then kind of piggybacking off of that, Kenny Atkinson too. Let's think about it this way. Kenny Atkinson last year was hired in July 1st, 2024. So now, fast forwarding to now, he gets a full offseason to evaluate and make adjustments going into next season, right? You think about it, last year, this was a whole new team for him. He was meeting these guys for the first time. Really, it was only Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert that he'd worked with before with the Brooklyn Nets. But for the most part, this was a new city, new franchise, right? New system. You're meeting new people, right? You don't really have a feel for, working with these guys. And then you go into his first season, wins Coach of the Year, wins 64 games, and, obviously loses in pretty embarrassing fashion, but now has an offseason where he can make adjustments and really build those connections with his players and really figure out, in my opinion, where they can improve on the court. And if you can improve after winning 64 games, that means that to me shows you have a very, very promising chance to have some success in years to come. So to me, you have Jarrett Allen, Darius Garland, who flourished under Kenny Atkinson's system. Now building off of that, Kenny's going to have another offseason where a full offseason where he can make adjustments, and then I think Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen can take that next step as a result. And then the final point here, just real quick, the reason the Cavs are favorites in the East is because these two players, on the left, Tyrese Halliburton, on the right, Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, are both going to be out all of next year. So that's in theory, that's two heavyweight Eastern Conference teams that should be off the pages for the Cavs the Cavs probably shouldn't have to go through those guys. To me, in the East right now, and I think most people would agree, and let me know your thoughts if you think otherwise, but it's going to be Cleveland and the Knicks. Those are the two teams, in my opinion, who have the best chance to come out of the Eastern Conference next season. And in that case, if the Cavs, like I said, look at this here. Again, I'll show you. Top in the Eastern Conference, number 1 to make it out of the East next year. So again, why would you change? I know people are, and I'm certainly the same way, frustrated with how this season ended, but we can't let that short-term memory impact how we feel about these guys moving forward. We kind of need to look at this more as from a holistic standpoint in terms of why Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen should stay. But, I know we have a lot of passionate fans. Like I said, I've talked with a lot of passionate Cavs fans who feel differently. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think about Darius Garland and or Jarrett Allen? Should the Cavs make a move? What are your thoughts on what they should look like next year? How should this core look moving forward? Well, thanks so much again for joining me this week on Cavs Digest. Like I said, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, always love hearing your thoughts, having your voice heard on the channel. We appreciate you guys viewing the show as well. Until next time, I'm Darayus Sethna, and I'll see you again soon for another episode of Cavs Digest. Thanks, everybody.